for me, human spaceflight is to a large extent about that curiosity. I want to know what's around the corner. I want to know what's over the next hill. I think that's important. I also think there's a lot of wisdom in what astronaut John Young has said. One of my favorite quotes from him is that a single planet species is destined to extinction. I grew up on Star Trek, the original Star Trek. I've been through all of them. But this idea of in fact, going out from this planet and exploring and finding other worlds has appealed to me. So I think we're really at a crossroads now because the debate has gotten into, can we really afford a human spaceflight program? Is it really necessary? Should we settle for less? Should we focus more on Earth science and just do some technology? And International Space Station, that's human spaceflight, so we don't need a whole lot more. But I think when people realize that for us to take Americans to that station, we're totally dependent on Russian vehicles for a period of time, they're going to wonder how we got here. So I think we are at a crossroads. And I look at groups like yours and think, it's up to you. This is your future to shape. Where do you want us to go? What do you want your space program to be when you get to be in the workforce and in my kind of job? And I'd be very interested in hearing your thoughts.
So, what might you be interested in? I don't know. I didn't know. As an engineer, when I was sitting in your seat there, I didn't know what I might be interested in. But you might be interested in solids. What you see up there is one of the SRM, that's the solid rocket motors for the shuttle firing at sea level. You see down here a Minuteman third stage, which is a part of our ballistic missile inventory. That's being tested at ISDC. And then over here you see a Intelsat 6, which is a satellite insertion motor. We'll talk a little bit about insertion of satellites into geosynchronous orbit in a little while. This was a test that I was responsible for there. A little young engineer, don't know what he's doing. This particular vehicle is, I think it weighed about 25,000 pounds total weight, and we're putting it in a spin rig. And some of these motors are spin stabilized, and we spun that thing at 100 RPM. And that will scare the crap out of you when you're standing next to it and seeing that thing spinning at 100 RPM. It's a lot of mass. So solids might be something that you could be interested in.
You start asking yourself the question, perhaps you might be able to walk around it or go over it. But what is that wall from 100 miles up? In the grand scheme of things. You know, you could argue it's a different perspective. Now, what space offers us is an ability to understand and gain a different set of perspectives on the systems that are integral to the functioning of our planet. That, you know, the cradle which sustains us as a species. We have, you know, as we're becoming increasingly aware, the service contract on this particular spaceship has run out. We either have to figure out how to pick up that service contract and learn how to manage our interaction with the natural systems of the planet to preserve, preserve the environment as we would like it to be, or it will change. Perhaps driven ever more so by our inputs. But we know throughout history it has changed even on its own accord. So, you know, there's a set of systems there that we have to be a party to understanding, and space offers us you know, a variety of very valuable perspectives in terms of understanding.
Here in two areas. One is curiosity of what's out there, curiosity of the universe, and there's the competition. Okay, and that's a restructure. That part's a restructure of what I saw in the 60s and in the 70s, and I'll get into that in just a second. But what I think is cool is your generation, and I don't think you're a majority, I think this is a minority, but the people in here, which is cool. I was impressed last time I talked of the quality and the knowledge of the kids that came. Hope y'all don't mind me calling you kids. That you guys really have a curiosity that's a lot farther out there than what your colleagues that are taking other subjects.
How much did cash for clunkers cost? Remember? No? $3 billion. In about 3 weeks. The country spent $3 billion on cash for clunkers. Think of what that would have done for NASA in an entire year in terms of education and employment and technical advancement of skills.
We could buy some used space shuttles.
We don't need any used space shuttles. Hey, listen, I was on just to show you where I sat on that position. I was the Maverick in '92, and I was talking to a Golden Commission. If that's way before your time, he was an administrator at NASA, and they wanted me to talk about when we take the shuttle down. And I put a view graph up with a dinosaur laying on top of the shuttle, and I said we need to take it down either 2003 or 2005, and they ran me out of there. So if you take a look at the technology in the shuttle, it's an awesome device, but dang, you know, y'all are a lot smart. Y'all could bring, this age group could bring so much more to the table. I mean, you take a look at the technologies we have today. I'm going to get off track. The sky's the limit on the stuff that you guys can bring forward. There's so much out there now that we can bring to a new flight vehicle. But anyway,
I mean, this is the back of the building. If I were going to put this picture here, this is the picture I would have put up. This is the front of the building. A couple years ago, SpaceX had a model of their Falcon 1, and they brought it to Washington, D.C., and they parked it out front, so that was very cool. So, and this is our building. That's the front of our building. It's a non-district. It's called the FOBA, the Federal Office Building A. It's kind of, and then the FAA got clever, and there's two buildings side by side. One's called Orville, and one's called Wilbur. So we're in Orville.
So what was born in those years were this whole group of people who were so inspired by what had started to be in motion but then had stopped, was false stop. And there was a pause for about 10 years where everything seemed to be maybe not have that much leadership or vision. Well, that's when these orphans were kind of growing up, getting their act together, getting organized. SEDS was born out of this false dawn, the sense of we were robbed, you know, and we had to take control and do it ourselves. And SEDS led to the space generation, and the space generation led to the International Space University. And all of that is a benign conspiracy. We never covered that up, right? We always said, right from the very beginning, we are conspiring openly, benignly, and we are going to find the others like us all over the planet. We don't know how we're going to do it because we don't have an internet yet. We don't have Facebook. We don't have Twitter. We don't have any of that. All we have is pieces of paper and telephone connections. But we needed to find those people. We needed to find yous out there all over the world and bring us together into this kind of the space mafia type of network that would be able to make this dawn happen again. And so the new space movement that you're seeing today, the new space, commercial space, a lot of this is actually the manifestation. Because it's that entrepreneurial spirit, it's that we're going to do it ourselves type of spirit. It's what I hope you will come to know, and that, you know, as Peter is fond of saying, if you believe something is impossible, it is for you. But the corollary of that is if you believe, because as soon as you think something's impossible, it won't be done. You've already convinced yourself, done. But as soon as you convince yourself that something's possible, anything's possible. And that's been the mantra of SEDS, Space Generation, and ISU. And thank you, Tabor, for pointing out the plug here for the International Space University. Steve Brody in the background there. SSP program, Master's Programs. It's your destiny. Resistance is futile. Please, if you haven't looked into ISU as a serious, serious next step, or maybe step after the step, do so. All of this that's happening, this is, you guys are the farm kid. You gotta come in and start making it happen and make your future happen. Let me tell you.
Was always the mechanism to meet people and to get a vision of the future that I wanted to see and make happen. And the fact of the matter is that the future that we want to see in space is ours to make. There is no guarantees, and there's no reason why we can't make sort of the vision that we want happen. It's been slow over the last 20, 30 years. There's been a number of great events, but we really haven't seen the pace that we could. And I think we have just around the corner from us some incredible opportunities and incredible possibilities. What's going on that is relevant to opening up and making space really a vibrant from an exploration standpoint? I would say that there are a number of things going on that are worth noting. Number one, there is a lot more wealth in the world. There's over 1,000 billionaires, many of which got excited early on in their lives by Apollo, and whether it's someone like Jeff Bezos or someone like Richard Branson. So there's enough capital in the hands of a single individual to go and do great things.
There's what the engine module looks like on this vehicle on this day, on the 23rd, 12th. So like I said, this is the fuel line. We inject the fuel into a manifold in the bottom of the engine, and then it flows up the inside between the jacket and the chamber, which gives you the cooling. The big box has sensors in it. We measure chamber pressure, injector pressures, and a pressure switch for the igniter. The igniter is on top of the engine, kind of hard to see. This big thing on the side here is the IPA throttle valve, the fuel throttle valve. Has a gear motor on the side of it. We just use it's a 12 volt. We run a 24 volt DC motor, and we use H bridges to be able to move it forward and backward really accurately and really quickly. It's basically a homemade high strength servo. Then the LOX valve is similar, but it's mounted directly to the top of the engine up there. And then in the back, you can sort of see the hinges, which are ultra motion. They're just linear actuators, crazy strong. Like we've had some issues, and you can actually basically shake the engine apart if you do the programming wrong. They're really, really strong. So.
It will be a different place 5 to 10 years from now than it is now. Why? Because the workforce is aging, and the huge spike, if you look at the age distribution, is going to shift over until it's past retirement age. All those people are going to retire, and the average age at NASA will drop hugely. I don't know, hopefully we can actually get more young people interested in science and engineering and the programs that are laid out in this report, and so it'll shift actually even more. Hopefully we can get even more young people involved. But it is going to happen, and so I actually have a lot of hope that it will not be business as usual in sort of that medium term for that reason alone. And in the short term, I've seen, from what I've seen with the people we work with in the White House, who really are in control, they are not people that are inclined to do business as usual either. So I think it's going to be good.
That Virgin Galactic at some point will move on and build a suborbital vehicle. Well, they have the suborbital now, but an orbital vehicle, and we'll be able to do re-entry and those things. And when that happens, it's going to be pretty exciting, because now you're going to be able to, take the New York to Tokyo flight in about 45 minutes. That's going to be pretty cool to do. My brother just got back from Tokyo. It was like 12 hours.
Space began really when I was a little bit younger than you guys, when I was told by a NASA doctor, who was kind of our family physician at the time, that I was no longer eligible to be a NASA astronaut. And prior to that moment, I would have never said when I grew up I want to be an astronaut, but when you're told, by the way, you can't be an astronaut, and your father and all of your neighbors are all astronauts, it's like being told you're no longer eligible to be a member of the club that your father and all your friends are in, which is pretty disappointing. And suddenly, it was really that day, I remember the day very vividly, where I walked out there going like, well, wait a minute, who are you to tell me whether I'm allowed to go to space or not? If I can't go with NASA, I'm going to have to build a civilian space agency. And you know, at the age of 15 or so, that didn't seem like such a big deal to just go do. But by the way, it's really freaking hard.
The last time and the first time that we ever drove Opportunity on Earth. So here it is. Spirit is in the back, up on blocks. Someone's ran off with the wheels. And we had lots of fun in the high bay doing things. We needed a calibration target to be able to demonstrate that we could drive somewhere and point the camera at anything in the scene. And that was the way that it navigated. So we came up with the rover secondary calibration target, otherwise known as SpongeBob SquarePants, which is seen in the corner of this photo. And it has, like, you know, a NASA certification sticker on it that someone had inspected it and that it was safe for the high bay. And this was actually our second choice, because what we really wanted to use was in the Orlando airport. When you came in and out of Florida, there was a stuffed armadillo with a cowboy hat and 2 6-shooters. And we really wanted to use that, but bringing a dead armadillo into the high bay did not go over well.